a series I'm doing in case there's a zombie apocalypse or anything and all of my world famous big green egg recipes are destroyed. And tonight we're going to work on a buffalo chicken pizza as a healthier alternative. Ingredients, we're going to start with pre-cut chicken tenderloins. They don't have to be pre-cut, but I just like them pre-cut because it makes it a lot easier to cut them at a quicker rate to get them down to nugget size. Pizza dough. If you're feeling ambitious, you can make your own, but I usually buy store-bought. Prefer multi-grain wheat just because it's a little bit healthier, but obviously any dough will do with this recipe. Then I like to split the cheeses between 2% milk and fat-free. Really, because with all the cheese that's going to be on this, you're really not going to be able to tell the difference, but I do like to mix in a little bit of 2% milk just to bring out a little bit more of that mozzarella flavor. Then, basically, as part of the buffalo marinade, I like to cut the buffalo sauce with honey just to take a little bit of the spice off. So honey is definitely needed. Also, to cut that spiciness, we have crumbled blue cheese. I go with the reduced fat on this as well. Shake and bake. Obviously, frying the chicken's not really going to help out with the health factor, but just plain chicken's a little bit too bland. So introducing a breading like shake and bake that's a little bit less calorie intensive is pretty good. I prefer not to use the buffalo style. It's a little bit overkill in the buffalo flavor, but the hot and spicy complements it really well. Then I use Ken's marinade buffalo sauce. Definitely my favorite type of buffalo sauce. Definitely delicious in this recipe. Then I use Tabasco, and you'll see that when I make the ricotta spread. I do ricotta instead of a traditional marinara sauce. Goes a little bit better with the buffalo chicken. So I use that to kind of add a little bit of heat to it. Then you're going to see as far as spices go, it's really just garlic, salt, oregano, and parsley. And there's a few other ingredients that will be involved. The sauce is mainly ricotta, cut with a little bit of marinara just to bring some of that traditional Italian. Alright, now we're going to make a little bit of a mess. Basically what we're doing here is we're spreading flour over the surface where I'm going to prepare the pizza dough. Reason why I do this is just mainly so that it doesn't stick to the countertop, as well as just you're kind of layering it on the back of the dough just so it doesn't stick to the pizza stone when you actually cook the pizza itself. I'm not the best at doing this. I'm actually a German in heritage from the city of Atlanta, so I definitely don't have the pizza tossing skills. So I basically just knead it with my hands until it spreads out into a full-size large pizza. So basically I'm going to unwrap this guy and I'm going to get after it, just kind of pushing from the center, working my way out over this dough until it looks like a real pizza crust. So we'll get started on that now. So you'll notice I just kind of plopped it right in the middle. I'm just really going to coat both sides with this flour, just really to kind of get an even spread on it so that as I start working it, once again it won't stick. So basically I'm just going to kind of come in here. I'm really just going to start kind of punching in the middle and spreading out slowly. Just kind of working it a little bit out, slowly but surely. Like I said, I'm not good enough to actually toss this thing, and if I showed you the rest of my kitchen, it's already messy enough. I don't need pizza crust all over the floor, so as well as this flour. So I will check this video back in once it's actually spread out, because it's kind of embarrassing even showing how I do this. Alright, so now that we've actually spread it out, you'll see it's a pretty large size crust, and it will expand a little bit more as it's on the egg itself. But what we want to do now is just kind of let it sit, think about what it's done, but we definitely want to poke some holes with fork all the way through pretty generously. This is really what's going to help you prevent it from getting those annoying air bubbles. Obviously, if you're a big fan of the air bubbles, you may want to leave a few spots unpoked, but I myself like an even crust, so I'm just going to kind of butcher this guy up, let him sit, and then eventually I will place them over on the pizza stone. Alright, so now while the crust is kind of chilling out, we're going to get started on the topping, because we will actually pre-bake this before it goes on the pizza. So basically what we're going to do here is we're going to take each of these pre-cut tenders, and we're going to cut them about to 1/2 inch nugget size. If you went with full breast, you can still fillet the breast, butterfly it, and then cut it to kind of similar 1-inch by 1-inch little nuggets. And then after you pile all of those up, and obviously having rinsed them, you'll dump them into your bag of shake and bake, shake it around, make sure everything gets an even coat, and then we're going to transfer it over to a baking pan. Meanwhile, the oven is preheating up to 400. It won't take the full recommended 20 minutes. It will take probably anywhere between 8 to 12 minutes. You just want to check on them, make sure they look like they're fully cooked, and kind of that golden brown color. Now, you really can't go wrong with your time on this, as long as you have at least 8 minutes on it, because it will continue to cook on the pizza. You just want to make sure that you're not contaminating everything. Alright, so now that all these are chopped up, you can see the type of size piece we're working with. Just little slivers, nothing big. No big chunks really as far as thickness, so they can still cook through. But still they're kind of in these 1 to 1/2 inch kind of medallion shapes. So we're going to gather all these up. We're going to put them here in the shake and bake. We're going to shake it around a little bit, coat them. We'll drop them over. Alright, so you'll notice we got those all breaded up. They're all kind of hanging on this pan. We did have to pan it to make sure that they didn't stick. The oven's been preheated at 400, so now we're going to put them in for about 8 to 12 minutes, and we're next going to work on the sauce that will go under the cheese here while this is getting started for us. You'll also note that I have the stone in here preheating. You could preheat it in the grill. The reason why you want to do that is so that there isn't any shock when you first put it on the egg. If it's cold enough outside, it will crack the pizza stone. I'm just doing it inside for simplicity's sake and because I actually forgot it, but it should transfer nicely. I'll just have to throw the crust on it and then run it out to the egg and drop it on the egg when it's ready to start on the egg. Alright, so now I'm going to prepare the ricotta sauce. You'll have to bear with me. I won't be able to actually physically show you the measurements, but what we're going to go with here is about literally about 1/3 to 1/2 of a container of 15-ounce ricotta cheese, part skim. I'm just going to trying to keep it light. We're going to do a dash of hot sauce in there, not overboard, just to add a little hint of heat. You can see this one's left over from a previous experiment, but you're going to go with about 1/3 of a 14-ounce pizza sauce brand. So you're just going to kind of drop that in there to cut it a little bit. Just dust it with some parsley and oregano, and then you're going to add a pretty healthy amount of minced garlic. You don't want to go overboard, but it definitely helps bring out that Italian flavor when it's mixed in with the rest of the stuff. So I'm going to combine all these ingredients and just mix and let it hang out until we're ready to prep the pizza. So we've now prepped the sauce. You'll notice it's kind of a light pink hue. It's really just kind of the ricotta, and you want to mix it well enough so it kind of becomes this blend with the pizza sauce and hot sauce. So if you smell it, it should smell fairly Italian, but it'll definitely have a little bit of a kick to it after you added that hot sauce as well. So you're just going to let this thing hang out until we're ready to assemble the pizza. Next, we're actually going to prep the crust to actually go on the egg, and we're going to start the crust about 8 to 10 minutes before we put any of the toppings on. Alright, so I lied. I forgot that I left my pizza stone in the oven, so we're actually going to knock out all the prep work first before I transfer the stone over to the big green egg. But you'll see that the chicken's done. The parts that are exposed, they're kind of a white hue, and the crust is all kind of crispy brown. So went ahead and pull them. What we're going to do is we're going to put about half that bottle of Ken's buffalo marinade into a Pyrex dish, and then we're going to add a healthy amount of honey, mix around with a spoon, and then drop all of this chicken into there and just mush it around till basically every piece is fully covered. Then we'll set that aside until we're ready to top the pizza. So basically half a bottle of Ken's, a little bit more, and then about 5 tablespoons of honey later. Kind of mix it a little bit enough to get a swirl. It's going to be hard to mix it completely, but once we toss all the chicken in, it'll basically handle all of that. So right now I'm literally just going to scoop in all this chicken and just drop it in. And then once all of it's in, we're going to mix it around, and then we'll just let it prep. Okay, so now is the first time you'll see that all of our toppings are fully assembled and ready to go. So basically when we go outside later and top that pizza, it's really going to be this fat-free mozzarella cheese, 2% mozzarella, crumbled blue cheese. There's our fully prepped buffalo chicken topping, and our ricotta cheese. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to start off with that ricotta. Then we're going to work our way over here with the fat-free mozzarella, give a pretty hefty topping about it, not overboard, just a nice coating. Then we're going to hop over here, we're going to drop on all this wonderful chicken, drizzle that extra kind of juice over the top of that cheese. Then we're going to top it with 2% mozzarella, as well as the crumbled blue cheese to finish it off. But first we're going to prep our crust, and we're going to put it on the egg for 8 minutes. The last step that we're going to do on this crust before putting it on the egg is we're actually going to put some spray butter on it. And then we're going to lightly dust it with some garlic salt. So I'm going to do that real quick. Then we're going to get our pizza paddle and drop it on the egg for 8 to 12 minutes. Okay, so up to now we haven't really talked much about the egg setup for this video. So you'll notice I just put the egg on. It's actually on a pizza stone that's on the plate setter. And you'll see that there's fire that I started probably about an hour ago just to get a strong flame. Got up to about 500 degrees and then cut it back to 300. So I'm going to build it anywhere between 315 to 400. Fortunately it's ceramic, so everything is still heated up to the 500 range once I close it. So it should heat back up pretty quickly. So you'll also notice that I'm using no wood chips this time. I found that wood chips just make your pizza a little bit too smoky because the cheese really absorbs all that smoky flavor. So we're just going to leave the dampers wide open. You'll see it's wide open up there. Wide open down there with the screen, of course, for fire safety. But we're just going to let it rock for 8 minutes, and then we'll check on it and put the toppings on. Alright, so the grill's been going a little bit lower temperature than normal, so it was kind of hanging between 300 and 350, so we let it go ahead about 12 minutes. So you'll see now that the crust is starting to get a little bit of a golden hue, but more importantly right now, because it is going to continue to cook a little bit longer, but it does move uniform. You'll see I'm coming right under it. It moves as one piece, it slides on the grill, so that means it's ready to go ahead and kind of put those toppings on. So we're going to get those ready and prepped, and then we're going to kind of throw it on here, and then it's probably going to be about another 10 to 15 minutes just to make sure that all of those flavors kind of melt together inside the grill. You'll still want to keep it about 300 to 350 at this point. You definitely want to bring it down if you're hanging around more closer to the 400s because you don't want that cheese to burn too quickly. So what we're going to start with here is we're going to start with our ricotta. Remember that we made that inside. So we're just going to take this spoon, and we're basically going to use all of it, starting at the middle. Kind of go with a few plops. And you want to move pretty quickly so you don't lose too much heat in your egg. Basically kind of just go with generous portions all along. And kind of spread from the outside. And you just want to get a clear coat. Doesn't have to be too thick, doesn't have to be too thin in areas. It's okay if you get little flavor bombs in there. But you just want to make sure that you get all of it in there as soon as possible before you move on to your next topping. So we'll just try to evenly distribute it. I like to go to the edges just so I make sure every bite is as good as the last. So we're just going to kind of, doesn't matter how sloppy you are because fortunately we're not in the kitchen at this point, so your wife or fiance will not get too upset with you if you make a mess. Alright, so we got a clear coat there with our ricotta spread. So we'll leave that like so. Next we're going to go with our fat-free mozzarella. I'm going to use the rest of this leftover portion and really just kind of give it a light dusting of a standard cheese base. We're actually going to run out of a little bit of this, so I'm going to get a dab from the new bag. And then we'll move to the fun part. Alright, that's probably enough. So now we're going to come in with our topping. We're going to go with this chicken. We're basically going to evenly distribute it across the pizza. So, doesn't matter if you make a mess with this either. We're going to use the remaining drizzles for the addition of the sauce. Let me grab a spoon. It's difficult with a fork. So we're just going to kind of get in there. Just kind of drop it all over the place. We can always spread it out with our hands later. So go ahead and just get it all on there. Spread it out later if you can. Alright, so I'm just going to kind of start spreading that across the pizza, just roll it around. Some of it drops in as a casualty, it's fine. The smoke will add that flavor. So really just trying to get some good healthy bites on each bite of this pizza. So now we're down to our sauce, a few stragglers, kind of spread that out. Let's do some light drizzling like that. Put a few left over, feed them to your dog, give them to your guests as an appetizer. It all works out. Now we're going to finish up with our 2% mozzarella cheese. At this point we have a lot of cheese on there, so you don't need to go too crazy with this. Just kind of make it look a little bit more like a pizza. And then we're going to top it off with our blue cheese crumbles. This is really what kind of cuts that buffalo flavor in half. Go pretty generous with it. I use probably about a third, a little over a third of the package, just to kind of give it that kick. Some of the chicken and the thicker areas. And that's probably good. So you're going to close this grill up. You're going to let it rock around 350, 300 is even okay. You're going to give it about another 10-15 minutes. Definitely check on it periodically because you want to make sure that you don't burn it. Alright, so it's really been about 16 to 18 minutes. The grill was a little bit lower, and a lot of it's going to be depending on your grill itself, but it's pretty much ready to pull. All the cheese is evenly melted. I did have to turn it a few times because I had a hot spot in my fire, so it's one thing you'll want to do. You'll notice that this side of the crust is a little bit crispier than this side, so I had to rotate it over. But yeah, basically you can't really go wrong with this. It's really up to your discretion as to how crispy you like your crust. The benefit of cooking on an egg like this with the plates that are so far off the amber is that you can basically not really burn it unless you leave it on entirely too long. So it's really at your discretion. You'll see I like mine to kind of have this little char look. You'll see underneath the crust right here how it's kind of almost blackish brown. That's how I like it. So I like it a little bit crispier on the top, the fluffier on the, or crispier on the bottom, flatter on the top, and a little bit lighter. So anyway, I'm going to pull this right now and then let it kind of cool off for a few minutes. Let those cheeses kind of settle down before I try to slice it up so that I don't pull all the cheese off when I do so. So this is what perfection looks like. Now notice that I'm not cutting it right now. You need to let the cheese settle a little bit so the slices don't all pull it apart. So I usually give it about 5 to 6 minutes. But you'll see the cheese is evenly melted. The chicken kind of all that sauce that was on it is kind of caramelized a little bit, so that there's really kind of, with that honey that was mixed in it, kind of gives you that crispy, sweet, almost barbecue texture, even though it's buffalo. The blue cheese crumbles are just starting to melt into the mozzarella, and then you'll notice that a lot of that ricotta, the tomato sauce mixed with the buffalo sauce have kind of melted through to give it almost a little bit of a red hue. The crust itself is a little bit golden brown, crispy. You'll see that it kind of moves uniform. I mean, the whole thing slides, so it's crispy enough where it's not going to fall apart on you if you transfer it over. So we will cut this apart shortly and enjoy. Final product looks like, you'll notice it's a very aggressive pizza, very thick. You're really only going to need 1 or 2 of these and you'll be pretty full. Unless you're really hungry, you can try a few more slices. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed, and best of luck to you.